Hey, so you're probably scrolling the internet right now looking at some really cool reviews, maybe some bad reviews of these really cool synthesizers that are behind me. And really, they do enhance our workflow. They do add a lot to our sound design capability. But really, when it comes down to it, they are tools. They are there to enhance our pipelines and to create music. And it is really tempting when you do see that very inspiring video. Maybe it's a really cool demo that you enjoy and you want to capture that and you're like, I want to bring that into my space. Gas has kicked in hard, you got your wallet out ready to purchase. And I think this is where we need to take a step back, because really, coming from someone that deals with a lot of different technology, like, it does become overwhelming, and if you let gas run rampant, it's definitely not going to be a good time. And we're seeing that with like a lot of version 2s coming out. We're seeing pluses added on to synthesizers. So this is where we can have a think about what's in our space, test that out before we go out and commit that purchase. And I have 10 ways I feel that creeps up, and I want to go through each of those. So enough talking, let's get straight into it. So one time when not to upgrade is when you have not tried out all the functionality of a machine. Like when it comes to any sort of technology, the 80-20 rule is usually a really good indicator, because the end user only really uses about 20% of what the machine or technology is able to give out. So there's this whole 80% that really doesn't get touched. And like you see a whole bunch of these different machines behind me, if you don't spend that time to learn the 80%, you don't get the full amount out of that machine. Like behind me, I've got an MPC, I've got a digitone, and those work in completely different ways. And like, I've spent the time working, trying out different things and getting the most out of those machines. So when there is an upgrade, or like with the digitone 2 or the new MPCs, I can take that knowledge with me and apply it to those new workflows. So really, when it comes to your feeling that you want to update really quickly and you haven't tried everything out, look at the features that you haven't really explored in those machines and build a song around it. Trial by fire, being able to create something using that feature. So whether that being a whole new genre or specifically targeting that feature so you can really get the most out of it, it's going to give you much more depth of knowledge with the machine, and you'll probably find that there's a lot more that it has to offer in your workflows. So next on my list of when not to upgrade is when gear acquisition syndrome kicks in, or gas. We all know what it is. You can definitely see I do have it sometimes. The weakness does take hold. But really, when it comes to those times when the internet is flooded with videos showing off that day one of this is a really cool thing and it's going to solve all your problems, this is when you probably should take a step back, stop that wallet burning a hole in your pocket, and have a think about what capacity you have in your music setup, whether it's technology, music devices, utilities, and understanding what isn't there. Like for me, like as you can see, I've got a bunch of analog devices, I've got some digital, I've got some FM, I've got a lot of capacity here to do some really cool sound design stuff. But really, there are some parts that I don't actually have access to. So they're on my checklist of, is this something that's going to solve a need for me, or is it a want? And being able to separate those two and just sit on your hands and have a think about, is this going to benefit my workflow? Because what you don't want is to have gas take over. You have a bunch of different options that solve one problem, and then it creates this sort of paralysis in your music making where you have too many options and you don't know which one to pick, where you could solely rely on one option. Creates a bunch of character for your music making, and you don't have to think about that's the thing that does what you want. So next on my list of when not to upgrade is understanding that your music isn't limited by the gear that you have access to. Like maybe 10 to 20, 30 years ago, like getting access to the software, the hardware, and getting a bunch of people together and getting the song made and putting it out on the radio or some way, it was very expensive. So right now we have access to free DAWs, we have access to VSTs like Vital. You can get that right now and get a lot out of that synthesizer. And the gear that we have access to, really it does a whole lot within a very small footprint. So it's not really that gear is limiting, but we do get this sense of, if I don't have that upgrade, it's going to stop me from being able to make music. And it creates this sort of procrastination of, oh, I can't finish this track because of X. And really, when I come to this one, It's really just pushing through and stopping that procrastination by just doing and sitting there and being like, well, if this thing is the limiting factor, making a song with it, doesn't matter what, but every single element of the song I'm going to make with this specific machine. It really pushes through that barrier of, is this the limiting factor, or do I really need that upgrade? So being able to try things and experiment, you might find new ways to use the thing, but it really stops that sort of procrastination of, is it the gear or is it me that's stopping me? So next on my list of when not to upgrade is when you're chasing trends. And like, I'm definitely a culprit of this. Like, I've made a synth little track and I really want to make it shine. So I frame it up really nicely on camera. I put some nice aesthetic trimmings around it. And I try and make something that looks really special and sounds really special. And a bunch of these create hype for a particular type of machine. And you're probably wanting one, thinking, wow, this is going to create some really cool stuff for me. And I find this is kind of like the colored pencil box where it's got that really nice image on it, and you're like, wow, I could draw a picture like that with those pencils, but really it's a showcase of the creativity of the artist using that tool. So when it comes to this upgrade, I think it's really good to, instead of looking at the trending synth today, is looking at the trending synth yesterday, where you're looking at those synth videos but how they've gone on. So when they've gone out of favor, you're going to those channels that were showing those sort of trendy showcases. Are they making tutorials about how are they describing how they use it? Maybe they're not making as many videos about it, but you can sort of gauge how is it as a tool for your creative workflow, because really you want something that's going to support you to make some really cool music, and really good tools are going to enable you to do that. So next on my list of when not to upgrade is when you haven't outgrown your workflow. Maybe you have a cluster of devices that work really well together. You're in your DAW and you have everything set up the way you want. So you got your rack unit, you got all your signal chains, and they're working for you, but the music that you're making is feeling very samey, and you're looking for novelty, that freshness, and this is where you think maybe an upgrade is going to help me solve a problem. And I think this is where utility really becomes important, because all these devices can be used in completely different ways. The signal routing can really help out make different things shine. Like some of these machines, like a drum machine, can be a really cool bass sound, or the signal flows in your devices really do help make your music shine. So experiment with new ones, try and develop new templates that help you create other types of music, or spend time making something a little bit different with what you have. Can really show the sonic palette that you can create in that environment, changing it up, making it a little bit more novel than the way that you're used to working. Next on my list of when not to upgrade is when you really haven't hit the limit of what your synth can have to offer, because really by themselves they offer so much for sound design. Like the grandmother's just beside me, the routings in that machine, you can get so much out of it. But when you can start thinking about, you can run other systems through the grandmother, you can apply sound effect chains. Like you can see I've got a few different amplifiers to help color the sound. There is so much you can get out of one single synth. And to understand where that limit is, it's really about understanding and pushing yourself to get the sounds out. So one thing I really enjoy doing is every day to try and make something completely different to the days before. Like the first couple of days or week, you might find it really easy. It's like, oh, I'm going to make a drum sound, I'm going to make a snare. But by the 40th or 50th day, you're really getting into the nuance of that machine and pulling something out that's really special. It might not work, but those little nuggets you want to capture in your DAW, sample them and keep them behind, because they could be new inspiration or something fresh that you can pull into your music making. And really when you hit that limit, that's when you can start thinking about upgrading, because newer machines could offer a whole bunch more sonic capability, and you're taking that knowledge into that new machine. So next on my list of when not to upgrade is understanding there are some music gear out there that does require extra parts to make it work. Like think of Christmas Day, you got a new toy, you open up the wrapper to find that batteries aren't included, you're pretty bummed you have to wait until the store's open to get some batteries to try out the new thing. This comes really apparent to doorless or coming away from the door into hardware. Like you buy one synthesizer to understand that it makes one sound, and if you want to go full doorless, you got a bunch of different machines that you want to plug in together, and that requires mixers. You might have a power conditioner. Like these are really useful items, but they don't make sound by themselves. So when it comes to this one, it's taking the time to understand what you need, but add to the collection of what you really have, because you want to purchase things that add value to the current sound. Like definitely power conditioner, get rid of the ground loop and keep your synths isolated from the power network, so when you're recording the sounds, it's going to add a lot more to your sound. It doesn't make any sound by itself, but it does add that value. My one, it has a surge protector. Living in regional Queensland, we get a lot of lightning storms and such, so I have the added benefit of knowing that if I do get a lightning strike, it's not going to blow up my gear, or it's got that protection in there. So these things are really apparent, but it's just understanding what you have and what you're adding to what you already have. So the next point of when not to upgrade is when you catch yourself researching more than actually making music. And this one becomes really apparent if you get stuck in tutorial hell, like you're following a whole bunch of videos online to learn the new machine that you got, or the machine you already have, and you're really finding that you're making music from the tutorial, but it doesn't really relate back to the music that you do. And I think for this one, it's really good to, instead of hammering in the nail, it's turning the screw, where it's really taking that concept from the tutorial but applying it in a completely different way than what was shown in the video. It's going to help you cement in that knowledge a lot better, and being able to take that knowledge and apply it to your music pipeline, you're going to get a lot more out of it. And I think with this one as well, when it comes to research, you're probably looking at other machines that can find and fix up your pipeline. Catch yourself doing it, understand that the best music device that you have is the one right in front of you, and if you're using that to make a whole bunch of music, then you're getting the most out of that machine. So next on my list when not to upgrade is FOMO, and the whole internet talks about this one. It's that marketing tactic where they sort of get you in the ribs and be like, hey, if you don't get it, you're going to miss out. And it's really understanding those marketing tactics where they'll try and drive a sale for something that you might not necessarily need. So it's taking that step back and understanding, is this something that's going to solve one of your problems, or is it going to solve their bottom line? So having a sit back and think about it, but also understand the alternative is also true. And it sounds cliche, but JOMO, like we all enjoy making music, and the machines that we have access to, don't let the internet make you feel that your machines are subpar. You can make music with them, you're going to get a lot out of them. So it's really understand the process of creativity. So if you're finding YouTube is serving you a whole bunch of content for new and interesting machines, maybe take a step back and have a look at machines that you already own, and look at those videos that exist out there to get some inspiration, because there might be one that shows you something that you never thought your machine could. So this isn't a video about no, you can't upgrade, don't waste your money. This is really taking that step back and slowly acquire pieces, because Rome wasn't built in a day. A synth setup isn't something that you just go out and purchase. Like, there are machines here that you might really enjoy and want to get access to. There's some here that you might never consider wanting. So really each synth setup is really based on the person that's using it, and what you want to do is build the best synth setup that's related to you, and that happens over time. So if you do get something that doesn't resonate with you, don't feel bad, and do pass it on to someone that really would get the most out of it. I've sold a few things here, but when you can create a space, a living space that empowers you to make some really good stuff, like I've done here, it really does amplify the way it does. And when you should really think about upgrading is when you do hit that limit, you do hit that peak, and you really do need that upgrade. Like recently, I had this explode on me, so it doesn't work anymore. I did get my use out of it, so I did do a recent update. Everything's connected back up again. I can route all my signals and get the most out of the space. And it has provided a really good sound environment to me to work forward. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I think this type of content's really useful out here, especially for people that are looking to get into any sort of technology, but because I'm a music channel, we're going to focus on music. But those sort of ideas can be applied across the board. So if you did like this one, definitely give it that thumbs up, because it does tell the algorithm to point it to other people that will probably benefit from not having all their money invested into nice shiny objects, but things that really help out their workflow. And if you got any comments or queries about this one, please feel free to leave them down below. I do try and go down there and answer any questions. And I think a thing like this, maybe you've got some ideas on how you negate that sort of gas, or when you really want to upgrade but you know it's not in your best interest, please feel free to leave them down below, because it does help other people out. And I do have a bunch of this content appearing on my channel, so if you're looking for that, I hope to see you next time.